Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the defense station, Defiant Guardian. He looked out at the dark space around Earth's outer edge. The stars were quiet today, but Jake knew that would change soon. His communication officer, Lieutenant Sarah Park, turned to him with worry in her eyes. "Captain, we're getting a message from the alien fleet. It's marked as urgent." Jake nodded. "Put it on the main screen." The screen filled with the image of a tall, green-scaled creature. Its yellow eyes were cold and hard. This was Admiral Corax of the Zephyrian Empire, leader of the Galactic Coalition fleet. "Humans of Earth," the alien spoke in perfect English. "I am Admiral Corax. I speak for the 12 species of the Galactic Coalition. We have watched your people for many years. You spread too fast across the stars. You build too many weapons. You are dangerous to the peace of our galaxy." Jake felt his hands turn into fists. He had heard words like this before from other alien species. They all said the same thing. Humans were too wild, too unpredictable. Admiral Corax continued, "The Coalition has decided. You have 72 hours to make your choice. Give up all your colonies beyond this star system. Submit to our protection. Accept our guidance. Do this, and your people will live under our care." The alien's voice grew harder. "Refuse, and we will remove the human threat from the galaxy forever. You have 3 days to decide." The screen went black. Jake immediately opened a channel to Earth. "Get me Admiral Lisa Carter at Fleet Command. Priority 1. Minutes." Later, Admiral Carter appeared on his screen. She was a strong woman in her 50s, with gray hair and sharp blue eyes. Behind her, Jake could see other important people gathering. "Jake, did you get the message too?" Admiral Carter asked. "Yes, ma'am. Every station in the outer system received it. They're not hiding their intentions." Dr. Peter Collins stepped into view. He was Earth's top expert on alien species. His face was pale. "Admiral, I've been studying coalition behavior for 20 years. When they make threats like this, they mean them. They have never backed down." General Amy Brooks joined the conversation. She commanded all of Earth's ground forces. "How many ships do they have out there, Jake?" Jake checked his sensors. "My long-range scans show at least 3,000 ships in their forward fleet. But our deep space stations report many more ships moving toward human space. This isn't just a threat. They're preparing for war." Admiral Carter was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke to someone off-screen. "Get me President Stone. Tell her. We need an emergency meeting of the World Council. Now." She turned back to Jake. "Captain Morrison, keep your station on high alert. Watch everything they do. If they so much as point a weapon at Earth, I want to know immediately." "Yes, ma'am. But Admiral, what are we going to tell them?" 72 hours isn't much time to evacuate 47 colony worlds." A new voice spoke from off-screen. It was Commander Ryan Hayes, head of Earth's most secret military project. Jake could barely see him in the shadows. "We're not evacuating anyone," Ryan said quietly. "It's time to activate Protocol Omega." Dr. Peter Collins looked confused. "Protocol Omega? I've never heard of that." Admiral Carter gave Ryan a sharp look. "Are you sure we're ready? We only get one chance at this." "All systems have been in place for 5 years," Ryan replied. "Chief Engineer Kate Williams finished the final preparations last month. We just need the order." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard whispers about secret projects, but Protocol Omega was new to him. "Admiral, what is Protocol Omega?" "Something we hoped we'd never have to use," Admiral Carter said. "Jake, return to Earth immediately. Leave Commander Davis in charge of your station. We need all senior captains for what comes next." The communication ended, leaving Jake with more questions than answers. He called his second-in-command, Commander Claire Davis, to the bridge. "Claire, you have the station. I'm taking a shuttle to Earth. Monitor the alien fleet, but don't do anything that might provoke them." Claire Davis was young but smart. She had been Jake's right hand for 3 years. "Sir, what's really happening? The crew is scared." Jake looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, thousands of alien ships were preparing to destroy everything humans had built among the stars. But something in Admiral Carter's voice told him that Earth wasn't as helpless as the aliens thought. "I don't know yet, Claire, but I have a feeling the Coalition is about to learn something important about humans." As Jake's shuttle raced toward Earth, he thought about the colonies that might be lost. New Texas, where his brother lived with his family. Kepler Station, where humans mined rare metals. The farming worlds that fed millions of people. The aliens called humans dangerous. Maybe they were right. Maybe they were about to find out just how dangerous cornered humans could be. On Earth, in deep underground facilities that most people didn't know existed, machines that had been sleeping for years began to wake up. Dr. Susan Blake checked readings on equipment that officially didn't exist. Lieutenant Commander Josh Wright sent coded messages to hidden installations throughout. The solar system thought the countdown had begun. In 72 hours, the galaxy would learn what humans had been doing during their 30 years of peaceful contact with alien civilizations. The Coalition thought they were dealing with a young, weak species that would surrender when threatened. They were about to discover their first mistake. President Helen Stone stood before the largest gathering of world leaders in human history. The emergency session of the United Nations had been called just 6 hours after the Coalition's ultimatum. Every nation on Earth had sent representatives. Even the colony worlds had managed to connect through quantum communication links. "Fellow humans," President Stone began, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "We face the greatest threat in our species' history. The Galactic Coalition demands we surrender our freedom or face extinction." In the audience, Governor Alex Turner of New Texas Colony shifted in his seat. His world was home to 2 million people, including farmers, miners, and their families. Through the communication link, his voice reached Earth clearly. "Madam President, New Texas stands with Earth. We've been preparing for this day since we first arrived here 15 years ago. Our people won't abandon their homes without a fight." Director Sam Martinez from the mining world Kepler 442b nodded in agreement. "The mining colonies provide Earth with materials you can't get anywhere else. If we surrender to the Coalition, humans will be dependent on alien technology forever. We can't let that happen." Dr. Maya Foster, Earth's chief strategy expert, stepped forward. She had spent years studying alien behavior and Coalition politics. In her hands was a datapad containing the full text of the alien demands. "The Coalition wants us to abandon 47 colony worlds," Dr. Foster explained. "They want us to destroy our entire fleet, except for a few cargo ships. They want human military leaders to report to alien commanders. They call this protective custody, but it's really slavery with a nice name." A murmur ran through the assembly. Many of the leaders had suspected the Coalition's true intentions, but hearing it spelled out so clearly made it real. Captain Claire Davis appeared on one of the large screens. She was still aboard the Defiant Guardian, watching the alien fleet. "The Coalition ships are moving into attack positions around all major human colonies. They're not planning to negotiate. They're planning to invade if we say no." General Amy Brooks stood up from her seat in the front row. "Our intelligence suggests the Coalition has over 10,000 ships positioned for this attack. That's the largest military force ever assembled in our part of the galaxy." President Stone looked around the room. "Before we make our decision, I want everyone to understand what we're choosing between. If we surrender, humans become servants to alien masters. Our children will grow up under alien rule. Our colonies will be controlled by alien governors. Our ships will carry alien observers who can overrule any human captain. She paused, letting the words sink in. If we refuse, we face a war against overwhelming odds. Many of us will die. Some of our worlds may be destroyed. The aliens have weapons and technology that we're supposed to fear. Governor Turner's voice came through the speakers again. Madam President, with respect, I think there's something the Coalition doesn't know about us. President Stone smiled slightly. Governor Turner is right. Admiral Carter, would you please explain Protocol Omega? To our assembly? Admiral Lisa Carter stepped to the podium. Behind her, the main screen showed a star map of human space. Red dots marked Coalition fleet positions. Blue dots showed human colonies and defense stations. 30 years ago, when we first met the aliens, some of us suspected this day would come. Admiral Carter began. We saw how they treated other young species. We heard their comments about human aggression and unpredictability, so we began to prepare. The star map changed. New blue dots appeared throughout human space, dozens of them in places where no human installations were supposed to exist. 30 years, we've been building in secret, hidden bases, weapon factories, research stations. We've been reverse engineering every piece of alien technology we could get our hands on. We've been improving it. Dr. Peter Collins, who had been quiet until now, stood up. Admiral, I've worked with alien technology for decades. Even our best reverse engineering efforts shouldn't be able to match Coalition weapons. Admiral Carter's smile grew wider. Dr. Collins, you've been working with the technology they wanted us to see. But our deep space exploration ships have been busy. We've found things the Coalition doesn't know about. Ancient ruins. Abandoned technology from species that died out millions of years ago. We've learned to combine it with our own innovations. Chief Engineer Kate Williams appeared on another screen. She was speaking from a location that looked like no facility anyone recognized. Strange devices hummed in the background. We've been testing quantum manipulation drives that make our ships faster than anything in the Coalition fleet, Kate explained. We've developed gravity weapons that can crush enemy ships from a distance. We've created automated defense platforms that can think and fight on their own. The assembly was silent. Even the colony representatives seemed surprised by the scope of Earth's secret preparations. Commander Ryan Hayes stepped out of the shadows for the first time. Most of the assembly had never seen him before. Protocol Omega isn't just about weapons. It's about showing the galaxy what humans really are. When we're pushed too far. President Stone looked around the room one final time. The Coalition thinks we're a young, weak species that will submit when threatened. They're about to learn that they fundamentally misunderstood human nature. She called for a vote. The result was unanimous. Every human representative, both on Earth and in the colonies, voted to reject the Coalition's demands. Admiral Carter activated her communicator. All stations, this is Fleet Command. Transmit our response to the Coalition fleet. The message was simple and direct. Humanity respectfully declines your offer. We choose freedom. As the transmission reached the alien fleet, hidden systems throughout human space began to activate. On asteroids that had seemed empty for decades, weapon platforms powered up. In nebulas where no human ships were supposed to be, entire fleets began moving toward Coalition positions. Admiral Corax received Earth's response aboard his flagship. He had expected the humans to beg for more time or try to negotiate. A flat rejection surprised him. Prepare the fleet for attack, he ordered his officers. These primitives need to learn the cost of defying the Coalition. What Admiral Corax didn't know was that the primitives had spent 30 years learning everything about Coalition tactics, technology, and weaknesses. The humans were just refusing to surrender. They were ready for war. In the final hours before the conflict began, human families across the galaxy said their goodbyes. But they weren't saying goodbye as victims preparing to die. They were saying goodbye as warriors preparing to fight. For everything they had built among the stars, the Coalition had given humans a choice: freedom or slavery. Humans had chosen freedom. Now they would show the galaxy what that choice really meant. The war began exactly 72 hours after the Coalition's ultimatum expired. Admiral Corax's fleet struck the outer human colonies first, expecting quick and easy victories. The aliens had fought many young species before. They always surrendered. After losing a few ships and seeing the size of the Coalition armada, New Terra was the first colony to come under attack. The planet was home to 800,000 humans who had built farms and cities in just 20 years. Coalition intelligence said the world had only basic defenses, a few orbital platforms, and some ground-based weapons. Admiral Corax sent 50 ships to capture New Terra. It should have been enough to overwhelm any human resistance. Colonel Ben Parker commanded the New Terra Defense Forces. He watched the alien ships approach on his tactical display. His men were nervous. They had never fought a real battle before. But Ben had a secret that the aliens didn't know about. "All units, this is Colonel Parker," he spoke into his communicator. "Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Activate all hidden systems now." Across New Terra, weapon emplacements that had been disguised as farming equipment suddenly revealed themselves. Missile launchers rose from what had looked like grain silos. Energy cannons emerged from artificial hills. The orbital platforms that the aliens could see were just decoys. The real defenses had been hidden inside asteroids for years. The Coalition attack force found themselves facing twice as many weapons as their intelligence had predicted. But that was just the beginning of their surprises. Captain Nick Rogers commanded the human destroyer Freedom's Edge. His ship was one of only 5 vessels defending New Terra space. According to Coalition calculations, 50 alien ships should easily destroy 5 human ships. "All ships spread out and use pattern delta," Captain Rogers ordered. "Let's show them what real space combat looks like." The human ships didn't fight the way the aliens expected. Instead of forming battle lines like civilized species, they scattered in all directions. They used hit-and-run attacks, striking fast and disappearing before the aliens could respond. Their ships were faster and more maneuverable than anything. In the Coalition database, Lieutenant Sarah Park, now serving as Rogers' tactical officer, monitored the enemy fleet. "Captain, their formations are breaking apart. They can't keep up with our speed changes." The aliens had never faced opponents who used 3-dimensional space combat. Most species fought in neat, organized formations. Humans treated space like an ocean, flowing around enemies and attacking from unexpected angles. On the planet's surface, Colonel Parker's soldiers wore armor that made them look like walking tanks. The Coalition ground troops expected to face humans with basic equipment. Instead, they met soldiers who could jump 50 feet, lift heavy vehicles, and see in complete darkness. Private Danny Brooks was part of Parker's special assault team. His powered armor let him move faster than any alien soldier. When Coalition troops tried to surround human positions, Danny and his team appeared behind enemy lines like ghosts. "This is impossible," one captured alien officer told Colonel Parker. "Your species has only been in space for 60 years. How do you have technology that surpasses ours?" Parker smiled inside his helmet. "We had good teachers. We just learned different lessons than you expected." The battle for New Terra lasted 3 weeks instead of 3 days. When it was over, the Coalition attack force had lost 37 ships and thousands of soldiers. The humans had lost 2 ships and held Their ground dot similar scenes played out across human space. Every colony that came under attack fought back with unexpected strength and strange new weapons. On Earth, Dr. Susan Blake worked in laboratories buried 5 miles underground. The facilities had been built in secret over decades, hidden from alien observers who thought they were monitoring all human military development. The quantum resonance weapons are performing better than expected, Dr. Blake reported to Admiral Carter. Human ships are cutting through coalition shields like they don't exist. Lieutenant Commander Josh Wright coordinated the secret defense network from a command center that officially didn't exist. Admiral, our hidden platforms are reporting successful engagements across 12 star systems. The aliens still don't know where half our weapons are coming from. Admiral Carter studied the battle reports flooding in from across human space. The coalition was winning some battles through sheer numbers, but they were paying a much higher price than they had expected. How long until they realize what's really happening? She asked. Commander Ryan Hayes, standing in the shadows as always, answered quietly. Their intelligence officers are probably writing reports right now. They're discovering that everything they knew about human capabilities was wrong. On the coalition flagship, Admiral Corax was indeed reading disturbing reports. His fleet had captured 3 human colonies, but the cost had been enormous. Human ships fought like nothing his officers had ever seen. Human soldiers used tactics that seemed impossible. Human weapons were somehow more advanced than coalition intelligence had indicated. How many ships have we lost? Admiral Corax asked his aide. Over 400, sir. The humans have lost less than 50. Admiral Corax's scaled face showed his confusion. That's impossible. We have overwhelming numerical superiority. Their technology should be inferior to ours. His chief intelligence officer, Commander Veltar, approached with a data pad full of troubling information. Sir, our analysis suggests that human technology has advanced far beyond our estimates. They're using weapon systems that shouldn't exist based on their known industrial capacity. What are you telling me, Commander? Sir, I believe the humans have been preparing for this war much longer than we thought. Every piece of technology they've shown us over the past 30 years may have been deliberately limited. They've been hiding their true capabilities. Admiral Corax felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of military service: doubt. The coalition had fought dozens of young species. They always followed the same pattern: initial resistance, quick defeat, eventual submission. But humans weren't following the pattern. Send additional fleets to all remaining human colonies, he ordered. Double our attack forces. If the humans want to make this difficult, we'll show them what the full might of the coalition can do. What Admiral Corax didn't know was that humans had been monitoring coalition communications for years. They knew about the reinforcements coming. They were ready. In hidden bases throughout human space. Automated factories worked around the clock, building ships and weapons faster than the coalition thought possible. Ancient alien technology, combined with human innovation, had created an industrial capacity that could replace losses almost as quickly as they occurred. The coalition had expected to fight a young, weak species with limited resources. Instead, they found themselves in a grinding war against an enemy that seemed to grow stronger with every battle. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding a battle group of 12 ships, led an attack on a coalition supply convoy. His ships appeared out of nowhere, destroyed their targets, and vanished before enemy reinforcements could arrive. This is Jake Morrison to all human forces, he broadcast on a secure channel. The aliens are learning that cornering humans was their first mistake. Let's make sure it's also their last. 6 months into the war, the Galactic Coalition was learning a painful lesson about human determination. What they had planned as a quick police action had become the bloodiest conflict in galactic history. Captain Tony Miller stood on the bridge. of Earth's newest and most powerful warship, the dreadnought Indomitable. The massive vessel was 3 times larger than any ship humans were supposed to be able to build. It mounted weapons that Coalition scientists insisted were impossible for a young species to develop. "Captain, we have the Zephyrian battle group on long-range sensors," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Amy Chun. 12 heavy cruisers and their escort ships. They're heading for the Tau Ceti colony. Tony studied the enemy formation on his main screen. The Zephyrians were using their standard attack pattern, a disciplined advance with overlapping fields of fire. It had worked against every other species they had conquered. "Signal the squadron," Tony ordered. "We'll show them why that formation is useless against humans." The Indomitable and her escort ships didn't approach the enemy directly. Instead, they used gravitational manipulation drives to fold space around themselves, appearing above and below the alien formation simultaneously. "All ships fire at will," Tony commanded. The human weapons didn't just punch through Coalition shields. They ignored them completely. Quantum disruption cannons tore apart alien ships at the molecular level. Gravity bombs crushed enemy vessels like tin cans. In 15 minutes, the entire Zephyrian battle group was destroyed. Lieutenant Chun watched the wreckage on her sensors. "Captain, we didn't lose a single ship. Our shields absorbed their attacks without any damage." "Send the recording to Admiral Carter," Tony said. "Let her know the new weapon systems are working perfectly." Across human space, similar victories were becoming common. Human ships that should have been outgunned were destroying Coalition fleets with ease. Human soldiers with impossible armor were defeating alien ground forces that outnumbered them 10-1. Dr. Eric Johnson worked aboard the research vessel Discovery, hidden deep in an asteroid field. His team had been developing new technologies based on ruins found on dead worlds far from Coalition space. "The exotic matter experiments are exceeding all expectations," Dr. Johnson reported to Earth. "We can now manipulate gravity, time, and space itself. The Coalition has never encountered anything like this because most species aren't crazy enough to experiment with forces that could destroy entire star systems." Engineer Carla Thompson nodded as she calibrated a new gravity manipulation system. The aliens build their ships to fight other aliens. They never imagined facing weapons that could change the laws of physics in a local area. The Coalition's member species were beginning to question the war. Ambassador Veltar of the Centaurian Republic had watched his people's ships disappear into human space and never return. Unlike the reptilian Zephyrians, the Centaurians had always preferred diplomacy to warfare. He sent a secret message to human diplomat Janet Foster, who had been hiding on a neutral space station since the war began. Ms. Foster, the alien ambassador, said during their clandestine meeting, "My government wants to discuss ending this conflict. We never supported the ultimatum to begin with. The Zephyrians forced it through the Coalition Council." Janet Foster was a small woman with gray hair, but her eyes were sharp with intelligence. "Ambassador Veltar, I appreciate your courage in contacting me. But I have to ask, where were the Centaurians when your Coalition decided to threaten human children on 47 worlds?" The alien ambassador's tentacles moved in. What humans had learned was a gesture of shame. "We were cowards, Miss Foster. We let the Zephyrians convince us that humans were dangerous. We see now that the only dangerous thing was underestimating what humans would do when threatened." "The Zephyrians aren't the only ones having second thoughts," Janet replied. "Our intelligence shows that at least 6 Coalition species are privately questioning this war. But it may be too late for partial surrender." Meanwhile, the Coalition's military situation was becoming desperate. Admiral Corax had lost over half. His fleet and human forces were now attacking Coalition supply lines deep in alien space. Captain Danny Brooks, commanding a squadron of stealth ships, led raids that appeared impossible. His vessels could travel through space without being detected, strike at coalition bases, and vanish before reinforcements arrived. "This is Brooks to Eagle Squadron," he transmitted to his pilots. "Intelligence shows a major coalition supply depot in the Rigel system. We're going to hit it hard and fast." The human stealth ships materialized inside the Rigel system like ghosts. Coalition sensors couldn't track them until they opened fire. By then it was too late. Commander Lisa Palmer, Brooks' second-in-command, coordinated the attack from her. "Fighter, all targets destroyed, Captain. The coalition fleet in this sector won't have supplies for weeks." As they prepared to leave, Palmer noticed something on her sensors. "Captain, I'm reading coalition emergency transmissions. They're calling for help from their home fleets." "Let them call," Brooks replied. "Every ship they pull back to defend. Their territory is one less ship attacking our colonies." The war was changing in ways the coalition had never experienced. They were fighting a defensive war against an enemy they had tried to enslave. Human forces weren't just holding their ground. They were advancing. Admiral Carter reviewed the strategic situation from her command. Center on Earth, the underground facility had grown into a city-sized complex that managed the war effort across dozens of star systems. "Report, Commander Hayes," she requested. Ryan Hayes emerged from the shadows with a datapad full of information. "Human forces have liberated 11 colonies that were captured early in the war. We've destroyed over 2,000 coalition ships. Most importantly, we've captured intact examples of their most advanced technology. What about their industrial capacity?" "Severely damaged. Our raids on their supply lines have forced them to pull ships back from the front lines to protect. They're manufacturing worlds. They're fighting the kind of war they've never had to fight before." Admiral Carter allowed herself a small smile. "Any word from their diplomats?" 3 coalition species have sent unofficial peace feelers through neutral channels. They want to negotiate separately from the Zephyrians. The coalition's unity was cracking. The alliance that had ruled the galaxy for centuries was falling apart because they had chosen to fight humans instead of trying to understand them. On his flagship, Admiral Korax stared at reports that made no sense. Human industrial capacity seemed unlimited. Their ships appeared faster than his forces could destroy them. Their soldiers fought with a ferocity that alien psychologists couldn't explain. How is this possible? He demanded of his staff. They're just one species on one world. We represent 12 civilizations spanning thousands of star systems. His chief of staff, a young Zephyrian officer named Sub-Admiral Krex, had been studying human behavior since the war began. "Sir, I believe we fundamentally misunderstood human nature. We saw their expansion and military growth as signs of primitive aggression. We didn't realize it was actually careful preparation." "Preparation for what?" "For this war, sir. I think they've been getting ready to fight us since the day we first met them." Admiral Korax felt the cold touch of fear. If the humans had been preparing for 30 years, what other surprises were waiting for his fleet? He was about to find out. 1 year after the Coalition's ultimatum, the war had become a nightmare for the alien alliance. Human forces were no longer defending their colonies. They were attacking Coalition territory and winning. The breaking point came when humanity revealed their ultimate secret. Commander Paul Anderson stood in a control room that existed in normal space and hyperspace simultaneously. The Quantum Command Center was humanity's greatest achievement, built using technology that even the ancient alien ruins hadn't fully explained. "Admiral Carter, all quantum communication nodes are online," Paul reported. "We have instantaneous contact with every human ship, base, and colony in the galaxy. And the automated platforms? Ready for activation. We've been building them for 20 years. The Coalition never detected them because they exist in folded space until we call them. Admiral Carter took a deep breath. Do it. Activate Protocol Omega Final Phase. Across the galaxy, space itself seemed to come alive. From asteroid fields, nebulas, and empty regions where Coalition sensors had detected nothing, thousands of automated defense platforms materialized. Each one was the size of a small moon and armed with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The platforms had been waiting in dimensional pockets for decades, powered by exotic matter reactors and controlled by artificial intelligences that had been learning Coalition tactics since the war began. Admiral Corax was leading a massive assault on the Sol system when the platforms appeared. His fleet of 3,000 ships suddenly found themselves surrounded by 5,000 human weapons. Platforms that had materialized from nowhere. This is impossible, his tactical officer reported. Our sensors show no ships, no energy signatures, nothing. Then suddenly they're everywhere. The platforms didn't attack immediately. Instead, they sent a message on all Coalition frequencies. Coalition forces, the artificial voice announced. You are surrounded by automated defense systems that have been observing your tactics for 1 year. You have 10 minutes to surrender unconditionally or be destroyed. Admiral Corax tried to order an attack, but his ship's weapons had no effect on the platforms. The human defenses absorbed every shot without taking damage. How are they doing this? He demanded. His science officer, trembling with fear, provided the answer. Sir, these platforms exist partially outside normal space. Our weapons can't hurt them, but theirs can destroy us. As the 10-minute deadline approached, Admiral Corax realized he was facing technology that the Coalition couldn't match or understand. His proud fleet, the largest military force in galactic history, was helpless against human innovations. On Earth, Admiral Carter prepared to deliver humanity's final message to the galaxy. She stood in the rebuilt ruins of Luna Base, which had been destroyed in the war's first week, but reconstructed as a symbol of human determination. Captain Jake Morrison, now Admiral Morrison after a year of victories, stood beside her. Behind them were the leaders who had guided humanity through its greatest trial. General Amy Brooks, Dr. Susan Blake, Commander Ryan Hayes, and dozens of others who had turned Earth from victim to victor. Open channels to every inhabited world. In the galaxy, Admiral Carter ordered, it's time for the Coalition to hear our terms. The transmission reached every planet, every ship, every station in Coalition space. Alien leaders who had never seen a human face now watched Admiral Carter deliver humanity's ultimatum. To the species of the Galactic Coalition, she began, her voice calm but filled with authority. 1 year ago, you came to our worlds with an ultimatum. You demanded that we surrender our freedom and accept your guidance. You threatened to destroy us if we refused. A camera pulled back to show the devastation around Luna Base, then switched to images of human colonies that had been attacked by Coalition forces. You chose to solve your fear of humanity with violence and threats. You chose to make war on our children, our farmers, our miners, our explorers. You chose this conflict. Images flashed across the screen, Coalition ships being destroyed by human weapons, alien bases captured by human forces, Coalition fleets retreating from human space. Now you have seen what humanity becomes when cornered. You have witnessed what we accomplish when you try to chain us. Every weapon you face was built by the primitive species you sought to subjugate. Every tactic that confounds you was devised by the dangerous minds you tried to control. Admiral Carter's image returned to the screen. Her eyes were hard as steel. We offer you now what you offered us. Surrender. Withdraw from all of human space immediately. Pay reparations for the colonies you destroyed and the people you killed. Accept our terms for future contact between our species. She paused, letting the words sink in across the galaxy. Refuse, and discover what happens when humanity stops holding back. For 30 years, we prepared for this war while pretending to be your peaceful students. Everything you've seen so far is just the beginning of human capability. The screen showed images of human ships that dwarfed anything the Coalition possessed. Weapons that could destroy stars. Automated fleets that outnumbered all Coalition forces combined. You chose this conflict. We will choose how it ends. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. Within hours, Coalition member species began surrendering individually. The Centaurians were first, followed by the Aquatic Collective, then the Silicon-based Crystalline Union. Even some Zephyrian fleet commanders began laying down their weapons rather than face certain destruction. Admiral Korax found himself alone with only the most fanatical Zephyrian ships. His once mighty alliance had collapsed as species after species chose survival over pride. 3 days later, even he surrendered. The formal ceremony took place on Earth, in the same United Nations building where humanity had voted to reject the Coalition's original ultimatum. But now the roles were reversed. Coalition ambassadors came to Earth to sign humanity's peace terms. Admiral Carter, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Human Forces, accepted the surrender alongside President Stone and the other leaders who had guided humanity through the war. The war is over, Admiral Carter announced to the assembled diplomats and media, but the galaxy has changed forever. Humanity is no longer the junior species seeking acceptance. We are now the dominant military power in this region of space. She looked directly at the former Coalition leaders. To species that choose peace and cooperation, we offer friendship and trade. To those who threaten human colonies or our allies, you have seen what we are capable of. Ambassador Veltar of the Centaurians spoke for the surrendering species. Supreme Commander Carter, we acknowledge that the Coalition gravely misjudged humanity. We accept your terms and hope to build a better relationship between our peoples. Admiral Carter nodded. The galaxy is large enough for all of us, Ambassador, but it will be governed by different rules now. Captain Jake Morrison, watching from the audience, thought about how much had changed in just 1 year. Humanity had gone from defending a handful of colonies to controlling a space empire that spanned hundreds of systems. The Coalition had tried to force humans into submission. Instead, they had created the very thing they feared most, a human species that was no longer bound by alien expectations or limitations. As the ceremony ended and the former Coalition leaders departed Earth, Admiral Carter looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were establishing new colonies on worlds that had belonged to the Coalition. Human scientists were studying alien technology and improving it. Human diplomats were negotiating with species that had never imagined, taking orders from the primitive inhabitants of a small blue world. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about underestimating humanity. It was a lesson they would not forget. In the years that followed, humans became the protectors of young species and the peacekeepers between older civilizations. The galaxy was safer and more peaceful under human guidance than it had ever been under Coalition rule. And on Earth, children learned about the war that had transformed their species from students to teachers, from subjects to rulers, from victims to the guardians of galactic civilization. The Coalition had given humanity a choice between freedom and slavery. Humanity had chosen freedom and made that choice possible for every species in the galaxy.
The morning sun shone through the windows of the space station as Admiral William Carter walked down the long corridor. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. The space station orbited Earth, and from here, he could see the blue planet. Below, it was beautiful and peaceful from this distance. But that peace was about to end. Carter entered the meeting room where 5 other people sat around a round table. They all wore serious expressions, Large screens covered the walls, showing stars and planets and ships moving through space. "They're hailing us again," said Laura Blackwood. She was Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for the past 8 years. Her dark hair was tied back and worry lines creased her face. Carter nodded and took his seat. "Put them through." The main screen flickered, and 17 alien faces appeared. They looked very different from each other. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked almost like insects. But they all shared one thing. None of them looked friendly. The alien in the center spoke first. It had blue skin and 4 eyes that blinked at different times. "This is Zarvesh of the Draconid Empire speaking for the Galactic Council. We have reached our decision regarding humanity." Carter felt his stomach tighten. 3 days ago, the Council had called this special meeting. For years, they had watched humans with suspicion as people from Earth built colonies on Mars, the Moon, and even around other stars. "Humanity has been deemed too volatile for continued independence," Zarvesh said. His voice was cold and flat. "Your species will submit to neural pacification or face immediate quarantine of your solar system. All human vessels beyond Sol must return within 30 standard cycles. This decision is final." Neural pacification. Carter knew what that meant. The Council would put devices in human brains to make them calm and obedient. Humans would lose their drive, their passion, their will to explore and discover. They would become like some of the other species in the galaxy, quiet servants who never questioned the Council. "You can't do this." Laura stood up, her hands flat on the table. "We have rights under the Galactic Charter. We demand—" The screen went black. The Council had cut the connection. The room fell silent. The 6 humans looked at each other. They all knew what this meant. "They've been planning this for years," Laura finally whispered. "The attack on Proxima Colony wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a test to see how we'd respond." Carter nodded slowly. "And they didn't like that we fought back instead of surrendering." 2 months ago, alien ships had attacked the human settlement on Proxima Centauri, the closest star to Earth. The colony had defended itself and driven the attackers away. The Council claimed it was all a mistake, a confusion about territory. Now Carter understood the truth. "We need to tell the President," said General Scott Harris, his voice grim. "This is an act of war." The journey to Earth took only minutes in their fast shuttle. Soon they were walking into the underground bunker where President Elaine Summers had her emergency office. The bunker was deep below Washington, D.C., safe from attacks from space. President Summers listened to their report without interrupting. She was a tall woman with gray streaks in her brown hair. When they finished, she pressed a button on her desk. "I'm calling an emergency meeting. Get me all military commanders, top scientists, and intelligence officers. Now." Within an hour, 20 people sat around a large table. Maps and data filled the screens on the walls. Everyone spoke at once until the President raised her hand for silence. "The Galactic Council has given us 2 choices," she said. "Submit to their control or be imprisoned in our own solar system. But I think we all agree. Those are not real choices at all." Heads nodded around the table. "What are our options?" asked the President. "Can we fight back? The Council controls thousands of worlds. They have technology we can barely understand." A man cleared his throat at the far end of the table. He was older than most others, with white hair and glasses. This was Dr. Alan Foster, head of a top-secret research group. "Madam President," he said, "there's something you need to know. We've been preparing for this possibility since we discovered the Council's archives on Mars." The room went quiet. Many people looked confused. Even Carter didn't know what Foster was talking about. Dr. Foster walked to the main screen and typed a code into the computer. The screen changed to show strange symbols and diagrams. 10 years ago, we found these ruins buried deep under the Martian surface," he explained. "They were left by an ancient civilization that lived in our solar system long before humans evolved. We managed to translate their records." He pressed another button and the screen showed what looked like a star map. "We learned that we weren't the first intelligent species to evolve on Earth," he continued. "What we found suggests our predecessors left us insurance against the day when the Council might come for us too." President Summers leaned forward. What kind of insurance? Dr. Foster smiled for the first time. Technology, weapons, secrets hidden all over Earth and throughout the solar system. The Council wiped out the earlier civilization, but not before they hid tools for the next intelligent species to find. That's us. And you found these tools? Asked Carter. Some of them. Foster nodded. Enough to know the Council isn't as all-powerful as they want us to believe. Enough to give us a fighting chance. President Summers stood up and looked at each person in the room. The Council thinks we're weak. They think we'll give up without a fight. They think they can take away our freedom, our very humanity. They're wrong. She walked to the large window that showed the city above them. People walked on the streets, not knowing that their world was about to change forever. Send word to all our colonies, she ordered. Tell our ships to prepare for possible attack. And Dr. Foster, show us these tools you found. In orbit, around Earth, the first Council ships began to appear. They were large and black with weapons that could destroy entire cities. More ships joined them each hour. The Council had made their decision. They thought humanity would surrender. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Dr. Catherine Reeves gripped the controls of the deep-sea vessel as it sank into the dark waters of the Pacific Ocean. Next to her sat Major Frank Donovan, a soldier who had seen combat on Mars. He watched the depth gauge as the numbers kept rising. They were going deeper than any normal research mission would go. Are you sure about these coordinates? Frank asked, looking at the map on the small screen between them. Catherine nodded. Her red hair was pulled back tightly. Dr. Foster, checked them 3 times. If the Mars records are correct, we'll find something at this spot, something that's been waiting for us for a very long time. The small vessel shook as ocean currents pushed against it. Outside the thick windows, they could see nothing but darkness. Their lights barely cut through the black water. They were now 5 miles below the surface, deeper than most submarines could go. The pressure outside would crush a normal vessel like an empty soda can. There, Catherine said suddenly, pointing ahead. Turn on the main lights. Frank flipped a switch, and powerful beams shot out from the front of their vessel. What they saw made both of them go silent. Huge stone structures rose from the ocean floor. They were covered in strange symbols that glowed faintly with blue light. The buildings, if that's what they were, formed a circle around what looked like a metal dome. Everything was covered in sea plants and coral, but the shapes were clearly not natural. It's just like the Mars ruins, Catherine whispered, but much bigger. She carefully moved their vessel toward the central dome. As they got closer, part of the dome began to open, like a flower blooming in the deep sea. It's reacting to our presence, Frank said, his voice tense. Should we pull back? Catherine shook her head. This is why we came. The predecessors built this for humans to find. They guided the vessel into the opening. Inside was a dry chamber with air. Lights came on as they entered, revealing a room filled with strange machines and control panels. Everything looked new, despite being thousands of years old. It was waiting for us, Catherine said as they stepped out of their vessel, just like the record said. While Catherine and Frank explored the underwater base, similar discoveries were happening around the world. In the frozen wastes of Antarctica, a research team found a vast complex buried under the ice. In the Gobi Desert, strange metal objects rose from the sand when approached by human explorers. Deep in the Amazon jungle, ancient stone temples revealed hidden technology. Each site contained weapons, ships, and tools beyond current human science. And at each site, the technology responded to human touch, as if it had been made for human hands. In space, the Council ships continued to gather. There were now over 50 large warships in orbit around Earth. They formed a blockade, making sure no human ships could leave. On the main Council ship, Commander Raxven watched Earth with his 4 eyes. He was from the same species as Zarvesh and held the same contempt for humans. Any sign that they are preparing to accept our terms? He asked his second-in-command. None, Commander, replied the officer. They have gone silent. No communications, for the past 12 hours. Raxven made a sound like rocks grinding together. It was how his species showed annoyance. "They are stubborn," he said. "But they will break. All species do eventually." On the far side of the moon, hidden from the Council's sensors, Commander Olivia Martinez stood in a large cave that had been turned into a secret base. Around her, engineers and scientists worked on ships unlike any humans had built before. They combined human technology with designs found in the predecessor archives. "Status report," she demanded as she walked through the busy facility. A young engineer named Jack Powell looked up from his work. "The first 10 ships are ready, Commander. Their shields and weapons have been upgraded with the new tech. We're still working on the other 20. Olivia nodded, satisfied. "And the fold drive?" "Installed on the flagship," Jack said. "If it works like we think it will, we can jump past their blockade without using the normal space lanes. They'll never see us coming." "Good," Olivia said. She looked at the largest ship in the hangar. It was sleek and silver with blue lights running along its hull. The name painted on its side read, ESS Defiance. On Earth, President Summers prepared to address the world. All TV and radio stations, all internet feeds, would carry her message. People everywhere were scared. They had seen the alien ships in the sky. They knew something big was happening. The president stood before the cameras in the White House. She wore a simple blue suit and looked directly into the lens. "Citizens of Earth and all human colonies," she began. 3 days ago, the Galactic Council demanded that humanity submit to neural pacification, a process that would rob us of our will, our drive, and our freedom. They have threatened to imprison us in our own solar system if we refuse. She paused, letting her words sink in. "For decades, we have maintained peace with the Council. We shared our culture, traded fairly, and asked only for the freedom to choose our own path. Today, they have shown their true intentions." The president's voice grew stronger. "I am here to tell you that humanity will not surrender. We will not give up the very things that make us human, and we are not as helpless as the Council believes. In offices and homes around the world, people watch their screens. In the colonies on Mars and the Moon, miners and scientists gathered around displays. On distant Proxima, the surviving colonists listened to the broadcast that had traveled 4 light years to reach them. We have discovered that we are not the first intelligent species to face the Council's demands," the president continued. "Long ago, another civilization arose on Earth. They were destroyed by the Council, but not before they left behind the means for us to defend ourselves." She looked down at her notes, then back at the camera. "In the coming days, you may see strange things. You may hear reports of battles in space. Do not be afraid. Know that humanity stands united and we do not stand alone." As the president finished her speech, Admiral Carter walked onto the bridge of the ESS Defiance. The ship hummed with power from its new engines. "All stations report ready, Admiral," said the communication officer. Carter took his seat in the UI command chair. "Then it's time. Send the order to all ships. Operation Breakout begins now." Across the solar system, hidden human forces prepared to strike back at the Council that thought it had them trapped. Commander Raxvan stood on the bridge of his massive ship looking at the blue planet below. Earth seemed so small, so weak. The humans had not responded to the Council's demands, and their silence annoyed him. "Send a scout ship to check on that energy reading near Jupiter's moon," he ordered. One of his officers had reported strange signals coming from Europa. It was probably nothing, but Raxvan was careful. That was how he had risen to command the Council's biggest fleet. The scout ship left the fleet and moved away from Earth, heading toward the outer planets. Raxvan watched it go on his screen, then turned back to monitoring Earth. He never saw his scout ship again. Near Europa, the small Council vessel approached the icy moon. Its sensors swept the surface looking for the source of the strange energy. The alien crew was bored. This was a routine mission, checking on what was probably just a natural event. They never noticed the 5 human ships hiding behind a small asteroid. The human ships were new, built with predecessor technology. They were nearly invisible to Council sensors. Admiral Jason Wells sat in the captain's chair on the lead ship. He was a veteran of space battles with pirates near Mars. Now he commanded humanity's first strike against the Council. "All ships, you have permission to fire," he said calmly into his comm link. 5 bright beams shot across space, hitting the Council scout ship from different angles. The alien vessel didn't even have time to raise shields. It exploded into a cloud of metal and fire. "First blood," Jason said quietly. "Send the signal to all units. Operation Breakout is now active." Across the solar system, hidden human forces began to move. Ships that had been hiding among the asteroids powered up their engines. Weapon platforms that looked like small moons revealed themselves. Everything had been carefully placed over the last 3 days, preparing for this moment. Back in Earth orbit, Commander Raxven was getting worried. His scout ship hadn't reported back. He was about to send another when his sensor officer shouted, "Commander, multiple human vessels detected. They're coming from everywhere." Raxven rushed to the screen. It showed human ships appearing all around his fleet. Some were coming from the dark side of the moon. Others rose from Earth's oceans. Still more appeared from what seemed like empty space, using technology that allowed them to hide. "Impossible," he whispered. "Their technology is not this advanced." "Sir, they're firing!" the sensor officer yelled. The human ships attacked with weapons the Council had never seen before. Beams of energy that bent around shields. Missiles that seemed to phase through solid metal before exploding inside ships. The Council fleet had superior numbers, but they were caught completely by surprise. "Return fire," Raxven ordered. "Call for reinforcements from Mars base." His ships began to fire back, their powerful weapons destroying several human vessels. But for each human ship that fell, 2 more seemed to appear. And when Raxven tried to contact the Mars base, there was no answer. On Mars, the Council's forward base was already under attack. Commander Olivia Martinez led the assault personally, commanding a squad of soldiers in advanced battle suits. These suits were based on designs found in the predecessor archives, allowing humans to move faster and hit harder than ever before. "Push forward," Olivia shouted as her team fought through the Council's defenses. "We need to take the communication center." The Council soldiers were fierce fighters, but they were shocked by the humans' sudden attack. They had expected the humans to surrender, not fight back with new technology that matched or exceeded their own. Olivia shot 3 aliens with her energy rifle, then kicked down a metal door. Behind it was the base's communication center. Her team quickly secured the room, making sure the Council couldn't call for help. "Base is secure," she reported back to Earth. "Mars is ours again." While battles raged across the solar system, Dr. Sandra Phillips worked in a hidden lab beneath the Rocky Mountains. She was one of Earth's top experts on quantum physics, and now she worked with the most amazing device she had ever seen. The quantum communications array was another gift from the predecessors. It looked like a crystal sphere surrounded by rings of metal and light. According to the ancient records, it could send messages instantly across any distance, bypassing the Council's normal communication network. "Is it ready?" asked President Summers, who had come to see the device activated. Sandra nodded. "We've loaded all the evidence from the Mars archives, every record of what the Council did to the predecessors and other species, their whole history of conquest and control." "Send it," the President ordered. Sandra pressed her hand against the crystal sphere. It glowed brighter, then pulsed with rainbow colors. The message was sent, not just to nearby stars, but to every inhabited world in Council space. The message bypassed the Council's network, broadcasting directly to every species under Council rule. "The Galactic Council has deceived you. We are not alone in our oppression. Evidence of their crimes against countless species follows this transmission." Along with the message went thousands of records from the Mars archives. They showed how the Council had systematically eliminated potential rival civilizations for millennia, including the predecessors who had once lived on Earth. They showed how the Council kept some species as servants and destroyed those who resisted. In Council space, the message caused chaos. Many species had suspected the truth but never had proof. Now they had evidence from the Council's own records. On dozens of worlds, people took to the streets. Council ships found themselves surrounded by angry crowds. Some Council officials were captured by those they had ruled. Back in Earth orbit, the battle was turning against Commander Raxven. Half his fleet was destroyed or disabled. Human ships surrounded the remaining Council vessels. "We must retreat," his second-in-command urged. "We can return with a larger force." Raxven hissed in anger, but he knew it was true. "Prepare to jump to hyperspace," he ordered. "We will return to the Council homeworld and report this. Resistance." The remaining Council ships began to pull away from Earth, preparing to escape. Admiral Carter, watching from the ESS Defiance, gave an order to his fleet. "Let them go," he said. "I want them to tell the Council what happened here. I want them to know that humanity is not easily conquered." As the Council ships vanished into hyperspace, humans across the solar system celebrated their first victory. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Council would return with a bigger fleet, more weapons, more soldiers. In Washington, D.C., President Summers met with her advisors. The room was tense but hopeful. "We've won the first battle," she said. "But the war has just begun. The Council controls thousands of worlds. They won't give up easily." Admiral Carter nodded in agreement. "But we're not fighting alone anymore. Our message has reached other species who hate the Council as much as we do, and we have the predecessor's technology. Then we need to move. Quickly," the President decided. "Admiral, prepare an expedition. It's time for humanity to take the fight to the Council." 1 month after the battle for Earth, humanity was ready to take the next step. The human fleet had grown larger as more predecessor technology was found and used. Now 50 ships gathered near the orbit of Pluto, far from Earth. They were preparing for their first jump into Council space. Captain George Wilson stood on the bridge of his ship, the ESS Valor. It was a medium-sized vessel with a crew of 200. George was tall, with broad shoulders and a serious face. At 45 years old, he had spent most of his life in space. "All systems ready, Captain," reported his first officer, Lisa Ryan. "The fold drive is charged and waiting for your command." George nodded. His ship would lead the mission to the Centauri system, where the Council had taken human prisoners after attacking the colony there. Intelligence reports said that these humans were being held for processing, a word that made George's blood run cold. "Send the signal to all ships," he ordered. "Prepare for full jump in 5 minutes." Throughout the ship, crew members secured loose items and strapped themselves into seats. No one knew exactly what it would feel like to use the fold drive. It was predecessor technology, allowing ships to travel vast distances almost instantly by folding space itself. Humans had only tested it in short jumps within the solar system. Among George's crew was Patricia Chen, a young woman whose family had been among the first settlers at Proxima Centauri. When the Council attacked, she had been visiting Earth. Her parents and brother were among those captured. "We're going to find them," George told her as she worked at her station on the bridge. "That's our mission. Find our people and bring them home." Patricia nodded, her face determined. "And make the Council pay for what they did." "Remember minimal casualties where possible," George reminded her and the rest of his crew. "Many of these species are as much victims of the Council as we are. We're liberators, not conquerors." The final minute counted down. George gave the order and the fold drive activated. Space itself seemed to bend around the human fleet. Stars stretched into lines, then vanished completely as the ships entered fold space. The journey that should have taken years lasted only minutes. When the fleet emerged, they were in orbit around Proxima Centauri, the closest star to Earth's sun. "Scan for Council ships," George ordered as soon as they arrived. The sensors swept the system. They found 3 Council vessels in orbit around Proxima b, the planet where the human colony had been built. The Council ships were much smaller than the one that had attacked Earth. "They're not expecting us," Lisa said with a smile. "Their shields are down." George stood up from his chair. "Open a channel to all 3 ships." On the screens of the Council vessels, George's face appeared. The alien commanders were shocked to see humans so far from Earth, which they thought was under blockade. "This is Captain George Wilson of the Earth Defense Fleet," he announced. "Your Council attempted to imprison humanity in our own solar system. They failed. Now we have come for our people. Surrender your ships and release your human prisoners, or we will take them by force. The council commanders were not used to being challenged. For centuries, they had been the ones giving orders to other species. Now they found themselves surrounded by human ships with weapons pointed at them. 2 of the ships surrendered immediately. The third tried to run, but a single shot from the ESS Valor disabled its engines. Marine teams from the human fleet boarded the council ships and took control. Then they turned their attention to the planet below. Scans showed a large compound, where human colonists were being held. "I'm leading this rescue mission myself," George told his officers as they prepared to land on the planet. "Patricia, you're with me. You know the colony and might recognize people down there." Their shuttle landed near the compound. 50 Marines in advanced combat armor moved quickly to surround the area. The council guards were so surprised by the sudden attack that many surrendered without fighting. Inside the main building, George and Patricia found hundreds of humans in holding cells. They were thin and looked tired, but most were unharmed. The council had been preparing them for neural pacification, but hadn't started the process yet. Patricia ran from cell to cell, calling out names. Finally, she found what she was looking for. "Dad, Mom," she cried, seeing her parents in one of the cells. George quickly unlocked the door, and Patricia rushed in to embrace her family. Similar scenes played out across the compound as the human prisoners were freed. Some cried with joy. Others looked stunned, unable to believe that rescue had come so quickly. "How did you get here so fast?" asked one of the colony leaders, a man named Carl Rogers. "The nearest Earth ships should have taken years to reach us." "A lot has changed," George told him. "I'll explain everything once we get you all to safety." Within hours, all the human colonists were loaded onto the fleet's ships. Some chose to return to Earth, while others wanted to help rebuild their colony now that the council was gone. As the rescue operation continued, news reached George's ship from other parts of space. The council was in chaos. The message sent by Dr. Phillips had reached every corner of council territory. Many species that had been controlled by the council for centuries were now in open rebellion. The Arcturians, a proud species with 4 arms and tough blue skin, had already overthrown their council rulers. Their leader sent a message to the human fleet, offering alliance. "We have suffered under the council's thumb for 500 years, the Arcturian leader said. "Now we fight alongside humans for freedom." The Solani collective, beings made mostly of light and energy, had also rebelled. They controlled important transportation routes through council space and were now blocking council military ships from using them. Back on the council homeworld of Xanthar Prime, riots filled the streets. Citizens demanded answers about the historical records humans had released, records showing how the council had systematically eliminated potential rival civilizations for millennia. On Earth, Admiral Carter coordinated with these newly liberated species, forming what they called the Alliance of Free Worlds. The council didn't just threaten humanity, he told the representatives who gathered via holographic communication. They've been strangling the galaxy's potential for thousands of years, eliminating any species that might challenge their power. The council's inner circle, 17 leaders from the most powerful species, watched their control crumble. They retreated to their ancient fortress world, Terminus, activating defenses not used since their rise to power. "We must crush this rebellion quickly," said Zarvesh, the Draconid who had first delivered the ultimatum to Earth. "Starting with the humans who caused it." He turned to the other council members. "Activate the purification protocol. Ready the Eradicator fleet. We will wipe out Earth completely as an example to other rebellious species." The other council members looked shocked. The purification protocol had not been used in 2,000 years. It meant the complete destruction of a planet and all life on it. "Is that necessary?" asked one of the younger council members. Zarvesh glared at him. "These humans have done in 1 month what no species has managed in millennia. They've united our enemies against us. They've exposed our methods to the galaxy. They must be destroyed, or everything we've built will fall." Reluctantly, the council voted. The decision was made. Earth would be destroyed. What they didn't know was that a human agent had infiltrated even this most secure council meeting. Hidden technologies recorded. Every word, every plan. The warning was already on its way to Earth. The final battle was about to begin. The warning reached Earth just in time. The human spy on Terminus, a man named Eric Foster, had managed to send the complete details of the Council's purification protocol. According to his message, a massive fleet of special ships called Eradicators was being prepared. These ships carried weapons that could crack a planet open like an egg. Admiral Carter called an emergency meeting of the Alliance leaders. Representatives from 7 rebel species joined the humans in planning their response. "We can't just defend Earth," Carter told them. "If we let the Council keep their fortress world, they'll just build another fleet and try again. We need to end this once and for all." The representatives agreed. For too long, their species had lived under Council rule. Now they had a chance for true freedom. "My people will provide 200 ships," said Krell, the Arctarian representative. His blue skin gleamed under the meeting room lights. "The Solani will block all escape routes from Terminus," promised their representative, a being that looked like a human-shaped ball of light. Other species made similar offers. Together with the human fleet, they would create the largest battle, force seen in the galaxy for thousands of years. On the ESS Vindication, the newest and most powerful human ship, Captain Nicole Gray prepared for the coming battle. She was 35 years old with short black hair and dark eyes that missed nothing. The Vindication combined the best of human engineering with predecessor technology. "This ship is our best chance of breaking through their defenses," she told her crew during their final briefing. "Terminus has planetary shields that can stop normal weapons, but our phase cannons should be able to create a gap." Beside her stood Krell, the same Arctarian who had attended the Alliance meeting. He had asked to serve on a human ship to help coordinate the attack. "The Council believes itself untouchable in its fortress," Krell said. "That pride will be their downfall." The combined fleet gathered at a designated point in deep space. Over 900 ships from 8 different species formed up in battle groups. At the center was the human contingent, led by the Vindication. Admiral Carter addressed all ships from his command center on Earth. "For centuries, the Council has ruled through fear and deception. They have destroyed civilizations, enslaved species, and tried to rob us of our very nature. Today we fight not just for ourselves, but for all free peoples of the galaxy." The fleet activated their fold drives. Space bent around them, and they vanished from normal space. When they reappeared, they were in orbit around Terminus, a planet covered in metal and stone structures. At its north pole stood an enormous fortress that served as the Council's final refuge. "They're activating the planetary shield," Krell warned as energy readings spiked on their sensors. Nicole nodded. "Just as expected. Major Ben Hayden, you're cleared for Operation Sundering." Major Hayden led a special team of ships designed for one purpose: to punch through the planetary shield. These small, fast vessels carried devices created using the most advanced predecessor technology. "Strike team, deploy," Hayden ordered. 20 ships broke formation and raced toward the planet. Council defense weapons fired at them. 5 of the small ships exploded, but the rest continued. They reached the shield and released their special devices. These devices didn't try to destroy the shield. They created small doors that allowed ships to pass through. "Shield penetration successful," Hayden reported. "The way is clear." Nicole wasted no time. "All strike teams, proceed to your targets." Across the Alliance fleet, landing ships filled with soldiers launched toward the planet. Their mission was to capture key points on the surface and, if possible, take the Council leaders alive. Lieutenant Daniel Clark led one of these teams. His target was the central control nexus in the heart of the Council fortress. It was the most dangerous mission, but also the most important. His team consisted of 30 human soldiers and 20 aliens from various species who had special skills. They landed their ship on a platform near the fortress and fought their way inside. Council defenders put up fierce resistance. They used advanced weapons and robot soldiers to protect their leaders. But the Alliance forces had surprise on their side. and many of the regular council troops surrendered when they realized they were fighting alongside species they had been taught to look down on. While the battle raged above and around the planet, Council Archon Zolvex rushed through ancient halls toward the control nexus. He was the highest-ranking council member, the leader who had approved the plan to destroy Earth. Now he needed to reach the control room to activate a final defense system. "Activate the purification protocol," he commanded into his communication device. "We will rebuild from the survivors." But when he reached the central chamber, he stopped in shock. Human soldiers were already there, led by Lieutenant Clark. Beside them stood representatives from species the Council had oppressed for generations. "How did you get here?" the Archon demanded. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly in confusion. Clark smiled. "You should have studied human history more carefully. We have a long tradition of resistance movements and infiltration. Your staff has included our agents for years." He pointed to one of the Council assistants standing nearby. The alien nodded and pressed a button, disabling the remaining defense systems. "Your rule is over," Clark told the Archon. "The Council's time has passed." In space, the battle was fierce but quick. The Alliance fleet outnumbered the Council. Defenders and many Council ships surrendered rather than fight against the combined forces of so many species. 3 months later, representatives from 27 species gathered on a neutral world to sign what they called the Galactic Concordat. This agreement created a new way for different species to live together in peace. Unlike the Council's forced control, the Concordat established a federal system that guaranteed each species could govern themselves while working together for common goals. Ambassador Laura Blackwood, who had first received the Council's ultimatum, now served as humanity's representative to the new Galactic Assembly. She stood with President Summers as they unveiled a memorial to those lost in what was now called the Liberation War. "Humanity never sought conflict," President Summers told the assembled dignitaries, "but when pushed to the brink, we demonstrated what our history has always shown, that we will fight with everything we have for our freedom and for the freedom of others." In orbit above Earth, a strange object that had been dormant for 50,000 years briefly activated. It was the last functioning monitor left by the predecessors. Its ancient intelligence scanned the planet below, noting the changes that had occurred. The predecessors had hoped that one day, a new species would arise on Earth that could challenge the Council's rule. They had left their technology as a gift, to be found when needed most. Its purpose complete, the monitor sent a final signal to similar devices hidden throughout the galaxy. Then it shut down for the final time. Its message was simple: freedom has returned to the stars. On Earth and 100 other worlds, people looked up at the night sky with new feelings of hope. The Council's long shadow was gone. The future belonged to those who would build it together as equals. The Council had gone too far, and humanity, along with its new allies, had changed the galaxy forever.